Hey everyone, this is Hiram Elwood presenting with Darren Tibbetts, and we're going to be talking about MVC, or Model View Controller. So just to overview, what we're going to be going over is all the three individual parts of MVC. So we're going to go over the model by itself, the view by itself, and then the controller as well. We're also going to talk about how these work together, how they interact to make a site work with a server and different other things, as well as the pros and cons of using MVC compared to different alternatives that are out there.
First is the model part of the model view controller design pattern. The model provides the core functionality of the system. This holds the data used by the web page or by the application. Types of data include arrays, variables, databases, servers, and so forth. The model is where the information is stored and retrieved from.
Next is the view, and the view is really everything that the user is ever going to actually see or physically interact with. They go through, it's anything from checkboxes to drop downs, events, and it's important to know that not only is it the information on the page itself that the user is seeing, but it's also the colors in it, the spacing for all the white space, all the different text and images, as well as things for the text, so fonts and font size, if it's bolded, anything like that.
Next up is the brains of the operation, or the controller. The controller controls how the user interacts with view objects and manipulates models and views. As stated, this is the brains of the web page or the application. Manipulates the data on the web page or the application. The controller controls any action that the user takes to accomplish a task. Anything that needs to be done, the controller is responsible for making it happen. The controller communicates with the model and the view. The model and the view never communicate with each other. That is important to note. Anytime communication has to happen in the model view controller design pattern, the controller is responsible for communication. It talks to the model, it will talk to the view, but the model and view never actually talk to each other. The controller is the one that passes along the information. It is the one that does the communicating. Now, how do they work? How does model view control design pattern work? Let's take something easy. Let's say that the user is interacting with an application and decides to click a button. Looking at the screen, clicking a button, that is a view that the user is interacting with. When they click that button, a request is sent. That request is sent by the controller. The controller is sending information. That information is sent to the model. So let's, for example, let's say that the user is requesting information from a database about cats. That information is sent to the database. So the controller is requesting information from the model. Model returns data to the controller, all the data that it has about cats. Controller takes that data on cats and is going to pass it along to the view. View takes that data on cats and is going to display it now back to the user. Now that view can be a list on cats. Let's say that for whatever reason, that information that was returned from the model to the controller was actually some sort of an error message. Now the view can also display an error message to the user. So that is overall, that's how all those are working together. Controller, or the view is sending information to the controller. Controller sends a request to model for data. Data sends it back to the controller. Controller then sends that back to the view for the user to see. So some pros about the model view controller design pattern. One, first you have loose coupling, which is extremely important when it comes down to this, especially this type of a design pattern. Also provides high cohesion. Both of those allow for parts of the program to be easily modified. The best way to look at model view controller is buckets. These are put into buckets, either the model bucket, the view bucket, or the controller bucket. The nice thing is that if you have to modify anything inside of the model bucket, you can do that without having to modify anything in the view bucket or in the controller bucket. It's also easy to maintain. All this allows for the code to be easily reused. Also, model view control MVC allows, it supports multiple views, and the model view and controller can each be tested individually, which is excellent if you have a team that's each building individual components of a larger program, and it needs to be tested as they're going. So there's actually a lot of pros for a system like this.
Some of the cons of MVC, we didn't find a ton. From our resources that we looked at, there were not a lot of disadvantages. One of the biggest ones is the learning curve. It can be really difficult to understand MVC and grasp it. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of information being passed around. So that is one of the biggest disadvantages that we found. There are also issues with scalability, and it requires strict rules on methods. Everything has to be very precise in order to pass the information correctly and for the website to work. In conclusion, we've gone over the model, the view, and the controller for MVC and how they work together. We've also talked about a couple of the pros and cons of MVC. We hope you've learned as much as we have putting this presentation together. And thanks so much for taking the time to watch our video. Have a good one.